The fluorescent lights of the ER buzzed like angry hornets as I clutched Julius's hand. His knuckles split and bloody from the punch he'd thrown at that frat boy who called us faggots outside the bar. "Nathaniel, it hurts," he whispered, his voice cracking like the thunder rolling over campus. But his eyes, those deep brown pools that always saw right through my bullshit, locked onto mine with a plea I couldn't ignore. In that sterile hell, with the scent of antiseptic burning my nose, I realized I'd fallen for my roommate harder than I'd ever admitted. And there was no wrestling my way out of it now. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what I told myself during those first awkward weeks of freshman year at UCLA. Los Angeles sprawled out before us like a promise, palm trees swaying against smoggy sunsets. The hum of traffic on the 405 a constant reminder that the world was bigger than the cornfields of Iowa I'd left behind. I'd grown up in a town where gay was a slur whispered behind hay bales, where my dad preached fire and brimline from the pulpit every Sunday. Coming out had been a quiet rebellion. A letter slipped under his office door, followed by radio silence that echoed louder than any sermon. So when I arrived at the dorms, all wide-eyed and clutching my duffel bag like a shield, I vowed to keep my head down, study hard, blend in, survive. Julius was the opposite, a storm in human form. He burst into our shoebox room on move-in day with a duffel slung over one shoulder and a skateboard tucked under his arm, his laugh booming like he'd already conquered the city. "Yo, Nate, I'm Jules. You the farm boy from the Midwest." He grinned, all teeth and mischief, his skin a warm caramel from summers surfing in Santa Cruz, his hair cropped close like he didn't give a damn what anyone thought. He was out and proud, the kind of guy who wore rainbow pins on his backpack without a second thought, who talked about his ex-boyfriends like they were old war stories. "This place is gonna eat you alive if you let it," he said that first night, flopping onto his bed across from mine. "But stick with me, kid. We'll wrestle it into submission." Wrestling. That's how it began, literally. Julius was on the UCLA club wrestling team. Not the flashy varsity kind, but gritty enough to leave bruises that bloomed like purple galaxies on his ribs. He dragged me to practices one rainy afternoon, claiming I needed to toughen up, after I admitted I'd never thrown a punch in my life. The gym smelled of sweat and rubber mats, the air thick with grunts and the slap of skin on skin. "Come on, Nate," he teased, circling me in a loose stance, his tank top clinging to the lean muscles I'd pretended not to notice. "You gonna let me pin you without a fight?" I did, of course. Every time. He'd hook my leg, twist me down with that effortless grace, his breath hot against my ear as he counted out the 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. "You're mine." It was a joke, or so I thought, a bro thing, the kind straight guys did without blinking. But my heart hammered like a freight train, and I'd lie there under him, staring at the rafters, wondering why his weight felt like safety instead of defeat. Afterward, we'd stumble back to the dorm, drenched and laughing, splitting cheap tacos from the truck on Westwood Boulevard. He'd sling an arm around my shoulders, casual as anything, and I'd lean into it, telling myself it was just the exhaustion. Friendship took shape in those stolen moments, pieced together like a quilt from thrift store scraps. We'd cram for midterms until dawn, Julius doodling caricatures of our psych professor on my notes while I quizzed him on Freud. "This guy's a total repression case," he'd say, sketching the balding man with a massive ID bursting from his pants. I'd snort coffee out my nose, and he'd clap me on the back, his touch lingering a beat too long. On weekends, when the campus emptied out, we'd hike Runyon Canyon at sunrise, the city waking below us in a haze of gold. Julius would point out the Hollywood sign, half joking about making it big as an actor someday. "Gonna play the brooding heartthrob, steal all the scenes." I'd nod, envying his fire, wishing I could borrow a spark for my own dim wick. But LA has a way of sharpening edges, turning friendships into fault lines. The conflict simmered first in whispers. Guys on the hall side eyeing us when Julius draped his arm over my chair during movie nights, or the way my stomach twisted when he brought home dates. There was Marco, the tattooed artist with a lip ring and a laugh like gravel, who stayed over one night and left Julius humming show tunes the next morning. I pretended to sleep through the rustle of sheets, the murmurs that twisted like knives in my gut. "He's just a friend," Julius said later, ruffling my hair like I was a kid brother. But his eyes darted away, and I wondered if he saw the hunger in mine. The betrayal hit like a sucker punch during homecoming week. I'd been building up to it, rehearsing confessions in the shower until the words steamed off the tiles. We were at a party in the hills, some off-campus house crammed with kegs and bass-thumping EDM, the kind of scene where secrets spill easier than beer. Julius was magnetic, as always, drawing a crowd with stories of his abuela's tamales and his dreams of directing indie films about queer kids finding their way. I nursed a solo cup in the corner, watching him shine, my resolve hardening with every smile he flashed at someone else. Then I saw them, Julius and Tyler, the wrestling team captain, pressed against the kitchen counter. Tyler's hand on Julius's waist, Julius leaning in, their lips brushing in a kiss that wasn't tentative. It was claiming. My cup crumpled in my fist, red plastic slicing my palm, but the sting was nothing compared to the ice cracking in my chest. Tyler, the guy who'd trash-talked Julius during practices, called him pretty boy, with an edge that cut deeper than compliments. It reeked of convenience, of Julius chasing validation from the one person who could give it without questions. Betrayal burned hot. Not just the kiss, but the lie of our friendship, the way he'd pulled me close only to shove me into the friend zone like yesterday's gym socks. I bolted, the night air slapping my face as I stumbled down the winding roads, city lights blurring through tears I hadn't shed since Iowa. Julius found me hours later, slumped on a bench overlooking the reservoir, the water black as my mood. Nate? Shit, man, what happened? He dropped beside me, close enough that his knee bumped mine, but I jerked away like I'd been burned. You and Tyler, I spat, the words tasting like bile. After all the bullshit about being real, about not hiding, you're screwing the team homophobe to prove something? His face crumpled, the bravado stripping away like wet paint. It's not, Nate, it's complicated. Tyler's got this pressure from his dad, the legacy crap. He thinks if we, it'll make him okay with himself. Julius's voice broke, and he buried his face in his hands. I'm tired of being the strong one, you know? The one who carries the flag while everyone else hides. I wanted to scream, to shake him until the truth rattled loose. Instead, I stood, the bench creaking under the shift. You're not carrying me, Jules. You're dragging me down with you. The words hung there, heavier than the fog rolling in from the Pacific, and I walked away, leaving him silhouetted against the skyline. A lone figure wrestling shadows. The weeks that followed were a slow bleed. We coexisted in silence, our room a battlefield of unspoken grenades. His skateboard kicked under my bed, my textbooks stacked like barricades on the desk. Practices became my escape. I threw myself into wrestling with a ferocity that surprised even Coach, pinning guys twice my size until my muscles screamed. Julius watched from the sidelines sometimes, his eyes tracking me like a hawk, but he'd leave before I could catch him. Rumors swirled. Tyler had ghosted him after the party, spouting some crap about keeping it straight for scouts. Julius spiraled quietly, skipping classes, nursing hangovers that left him hollow-eyed and distant. Climax came on a night when the Santa Anas howled through the canyons, whipping palm fronds like lashes. I'd come back from a late study session to find our door ajar, the room trashed, clothes strewn like casualties. Julius curled on the floor amid shattered glass from a dropped bottle. He outed me, he mumbled as I knelt beside him, shards crunching under my sneakers. Tyler's dad found texts, called my mom, told her I'm a disgrace. She said she never wants to see me again. The dam broke then, raw and unrelenting. Julius sobbed into my shoulder, his body shaking like a fault line giving way, and I held him. Not as a roommate, not as a friend, but as the man who'd loved him since that first pin on the mat. You're enough, Jules, I whispered, my voice fierce against the wind. You're more than their bullshit. You're the guy who makes sunrises feel like rebellions, who turns losses into stories worth telling. He pulled back, eyes red-rimmed but searching mine, the air between us electric with the unsaid. Nate, I didn't know about you, or me. I was scared you'd see me as weak. Weak, I laughed, bitter and tender, cupping his face. You've been my anchor, you idiot, the one pinning me down when I wanted to run. Our kiss was inevitable, a collision born of fractures. A slow press of lips tasting salt and regret. his hands fisting my shirt like he'd never let go. It wasn't fireworks or violins. It was real, messy, the kind of spark that ignites from embers long smoldering. We talked until dawn, unraveling the threads. His fear of rejection mirroring mine, the betrayal from Tyler a mirror to the silence from my family. Friends first, he murmured against my neck, our fingers laced like lifelines. Then, whatever this becomes. Healing wasn't linear. There were arguments. Sharp words over breakfast burritos, slammed doors when old wounds festered. Julius quit the team, channeling his fire into film club, scripting shorts about boys who loved fiercely despite the world's chokehold. I came out to my dad over a crackling phone line, his response a curt, "Pray on it, son." But Julius was thereafter, pulling me into a hug that said more than absolution ever could. We wrestled still, but differently now. Playful grapples on the dorm floor that ended in laughter, his weight a promise rather than a trap. By spring, as jacarandas bloomed violet carpets across campus, our friendship had evolved into something unbreakable. A romance tempered in conflict, deepened by betrayal's sting. We road tripped to Big Sur one weekend, windows down, his hand on my thigh as the ocean crashed below. To us, he toasted with a stolen beer, the sun dipping into the Pacific like a benediction. LA taught me that love isn't a straight pin. It's the scramble after the fall, the choice to rise together. Julius and I were still wrestling, every day, into the unexpected shapes of grace. And damn if it doesn't feel like winning.